Heyo, OmniDogs and OmniKittens. It's OmniDog from OmniDog's Vault, and I'm here to talk about Battle Worlds and Warzones, the Secret Wars spin-off books that happened 3 years ago. I know, I'm just now catching up. But there will be spoilers in this, so if you haven't read Secret Wars or Hickman's Avengers or Hickman's Fantastic Four that leads up to that Secret Wars, um, you may not want to watch this because it does contain spoilers about those books. But if you're interested in finding out what Battlezone and Warzone books are worth picking up, I'm here to tell you. And I'm not drinking root beer, I'm having iced tea because I just got done with a package of Skittles and my teeth are aching. So, let's get into it. What's going on with these books? Um, in the story Secret Wars, spoilers, Doctor Doom is the one that takes Earth 616 and Ultimate Earth and mushes them together into a giant mishmash where each region has its own thing going on. You're going to get multiple versions of Magneto and Wolverine and a couple of different Cyclopses and all kinds of things happening. There's all kinds of different realities happening. And the rule of thumb for these books, there's about 40 of them, and I got about 30 of them. So I didn't get all of them. But the amount of storytelling in all of them is at least average, at least a C grade. So most of them are worth picking up. But the rule of thumb is if you like the writer or you like the character, chances are you're going to like the book. So, and this is just my opinion. As always, it's just use me as a guide. I'm not the be all and end all of comic critics, not by a long shot. So I'm just here to sort of help you figure out what books are good and worth picking up and what books you can leave alone. So we will start out with, I took notes on everything because there's so many books that I read, and I'm just seeing a couple other books that I forgot about that I read last week, so I'm going to have to work those in. This is going to be like a three-part episode, so 3 episodes to this arc because there's so many books. First book that I got to review was Battleworld Thors. And the Thors are Doom's global or Earth-wide Doom World police force. And in Thors, there are many Thors in this trying to solve the mystery of a murder on their Thor beat. Thors are the police force of Battleworld, and when one of their own is murdered, they go all out to find out who did it. And it's the first book that I read that had an insurrection of doom in it. So in some of these books, some of them have, they all pledge fealty to Doom. He's considered a god and a creator. And they say, oh my Doom Lord, instead of oh my God, and things like that. So in these books, some of them just play it straight through that Doom is Lord and all is as it should be, and the story plays out in that book. And in some of them, people say we're being lied to. Something's not right here. And this was the first book that I read. I read this about third, but I suggest you start out with it first. This is the first one I read that had a theme of insurrection against Doom, or the beginning of it. The next book that I read, and that gets a grade of A minus. Definitely worth your while. The next book I read was a Warzones book, and there's like 5 or 6. There's 4 Battleworld books: Inhumans, Age of Ultron versus Marvel Zombies, Ultimate End, and Thors. And those are kind of overarching themes. And then the other Warzones books are like a little spin-off. There's no big difference between them. I read them all as just regular old books, and it wasn't like there wasn't a constant theme that ran through the Battleworld books that I could pick up on. Mrs. Deadpool and the Howling Commandos. This deals with Shikla, who's Mrs. Deadpool, and see, I'm predisposed to already like this. Deadpool, he's dead in it, and his ghost narrates it. These are her Howling Commandos: Werewolf by Night, The Living Mummy, Frankenstein, Man-Thing, and Marcus the Centaur with a symbiote. There he is up there. She's out for revenge on Dracula for murdering her brothers, and Deadpool narrates it. And I'm a fan of Deadpool, so I was a fan of this book. It's also written by, I think, Jerry Duggan. Yeah. And it's a good book. I enjoyed it. Let's see. DP's ghost narrates the story, and his wife Shikla, blah blah blah, are out to avenge mayhem ensues. It's fun and funny. I gave it a grade of B plus. It's goofy fun and highly enjoyable. I liked it a lot. Next is A-Force Warzones. I like this A-Force because I like the A-Force. The A-Force, they protect Arcadia, a region known as Arcadia. That's She-Hulk, Sister Grimm, Medusa, Captain Marvel, Dazzler, Spider-Woman, among others. Now you'll notice I said Medusa. She's in this region, and she's also in the Inhumans book, also in charge of Manhattan. So there are multiple versions of these people that can exist in Battleworld. There's like a whole huge thing of Hulks and a whole couple of different things and stuff. So you just kind of have to give into it and roll with it and say, okay, it's Battleworld, it's wacky. The introduction of singularities in this book. It's a well-told, fast-paced story of conspiracy and the hunt for justice. It's got some of your favorite strong female characters in this, and I gave this an A-. I really enjoyed it. It's got great art. It's well written by, I think, G. Willow Wilson. Let's check on that. Marguerite Bennett and G. Willow Wilson, two of my favorite writers. So there you go. It's well done, highly enjoyable. I dug it. Then, Old Man Logan. I like Bendis. I like Logan. But I didn't particularly care for this book. I thought it was a confusing mess that didn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. And I'm willing to reread it if somebody says, no, Jess, you're wrong. That's a solid B+ book. I gave it a C. I thought it was just average. If you're interested in Old Man Logan, I mean, go ahead and read it. Maybe you'll like it. I'll reread it if somebody out there says, no, that was my favorite book. Don't take it personally. I'm just telling you what I thought. But if you think it was great, I'll reread it and see if I can figure out why you thought it was great. I just thought it was kind of a low-key, nothing happens, kind of confused gobbledygook, and I just didn't really think much of it. It got a C from me. So, and I like Bendis a lot. But this wasn't the best book. The next one was fun. 1872. This features an Old West saga starring Steve Rogers as sheriff of a corrupt town run by Wilson Fisk. Bruce Banner and Tony Stark co-star, as does Red Wolf. After Steve's demise, Red Wolf seeks vengeance. Really well told and exciting. Grade A-. This is fun. Captain America is the sheriff. Tony Stark is the town drunk in an Old West town. I thought this was really well done. Who wrote this? Jerry Duggan. And Fisk is in charge of the town. And it's an Old West story where Fisk calls in Bullseye. Deadeye, who's that? Bullseye and some other assassins. Probably Elektra's in there. I can't remember. I think she is. I read this a while ago. But it's a really fun setting for a really fun book. The Old West. And Red Wolf is the main character in this. One of the things about these books is there's lots of references to older, more obscure Marvel characters. So the deeper your Marvel knowledge runs, the deeper your enjoyment of these books will be. I don't have a whole ton of Marvel knowledge. I'll be the first to admit it. I still enjoyed the books, and I knew enough Marvel stuff to really get a lot out of it. But if if you know a ton of stuff of old Marvel history, then you'll get a lot out of these books. Okay. Let's see. Next on my list, Civil War. Who wrote this? Charles Soule did a good job with this book. I feel. What if the Civil War story carried forward, and became a nation divided, ruled by Tony Stark on one side and Steve Rogers on the other? It's well written and an interesting take on the consequences. It is as if Civil War continued, split the country in half, and I thought it was really well done. It's a very interesting, well told story with some surprises in it that I thought were good. And if you're a fan of Civil War, the story, you'll be a real fan of this because I thought it was really interesting and really fun. I gave it a grade of B plus. It's a well thought out story because it fleshes out the characters of Tony Stark and Captain America, but it also works in a surprise that's really good. So yeah, I liked Civil War. Next is House of M. This is where we're getting this is the version of Magneto that rules over his kingdom in Battleworld. You'll see several versions of Magneto in these books, so you're just going to have to go with it. Take the House of M storyline that has Magneto. It takes the House of M storyline that has Magneto, the king of his own country, and expands that to a book full of intrigue and conspiracy. Mutants rule in this region, and it's the humans that rise up. The humans are the ones that are the targets of mutant ire, and the humans are the ones that try to rise up and overthrow Magneto. King Lord Magnus is what he's called, with his family and helping to run the place. I enjoyed House of M, this book. I thought it was see, here's yet another version of Wolverine. You're going to get about 6 different versions of Wolverine in these books. I felt this was a solid B plus. It was a lot of fun and well worth it. A lot of these mutant books, a lot of these X books were at least pretty good. That brings me to Starlord and Kitty Pryde. This is a Battleworld book. Kitty Pryde serves Val Richards. Valerie Richards is part of Doom's family, since Doom has Sue Richards as his bride in Secret Wars, and so Val Richards serves Lord Doom, and Kitty Pryde serves Valerie Richards, and she's on the hunt for something and runs into Starlord, who still has his memory from when things were before Battleworld. So that makes it very interesting. Peter Quill is the only one with a memory of how things used to be in his reality. It's a fun, action-packed, romantic comedy. And I really got a kick out of this book. Kitty Pryde is really well portrayed in this book. Peter Quill is well portrayed. You've got a version of Drax right here that's kind of crazy. He's got a big Elvis haircut, and he's in charge of a bar where Peter Quill sings. This is written by Sam Humphries, and he's got a good touch with this book. I found it lighthearted fun, and I gave it an A-. So I feel that's well worth your reading. Whoops, I don't want to give that away. Gambit's a scoundrel in this book. Like, not in a good way. He's a scammer, scoundrel, thief that's not a good person. And the last book for this episode will be E for Extinction. Now, this book is a takeoff on Grant Morrison's New X-Men. And if you've read New X-Men, that will help your understanding and fun in this book. You don't have to remember everything, but I think it would help. I'm not suggesting you go out and read the omnibus that's that thick just to know what's going on in this book. But this is one of the better mutant books, I thought. Now, it does have art that's a little different, and it's got older X-Men and younger X-Men who are on different sides. There's Magneto again in a different form. Bouncing off Morrison's take on the X-Men, this is the most fun of the X books in Battleworld, in my humble opinion. An excellent look at X-Men versus X-Men with Magneto guarding the Phoenix Egg. Helps if you've read New X-Men and the art is a little different. Yeah, the art's a little different, but I thought it added to the story. It's no Frank Quitely, but it's still interesting and good. I gave this story an A minus. If you're an X fan, you're gonna love this book. If you're just a kind of an X fan, you're still gonna dig this book. It's really well told, and it's got multiple beasts in it. Beast, Hank McCoy, and it's I think a very cool book. It was the best X-Men Warzone book that I read. So E for Extinction, definite pickup for those of you out there who are so inclined. And that ends this episode. This is episode 1 in probably 3 because I have so many of these books that I got to go through, and I don't want to bore you all by doing all 40 of them in one episode. I'm probably boring you all already. This episode's gone on long enough. So, peace and love, peace and love. I'll be back with my second part of this Battleworlds and Warzones Secret Wars review. Thank you for tuning in. I love you all.